we're getting towards the end of the interview here. Let me get back to these fan questions that we got here in the comments. Like I said, Tyson Triplet asks, maybe I'm late, but Donnie, what's your game plan for this fight?
We'll make it dirty, man. Game plan is, I really want to come out and show people, like, I'm not just that one-round fighter, right? Like, I have to finish. I want to make this dirty. Like, I want to drag it out. I want a bloody fight. Like, that's what I want. I want to come out and show that I'm not a one-dimensional. I'm not just a wrestler, right? Everybody knows me for my wrestling. I'm going to come out. I'm going to stuff his shot. And I'm going to make him fight me.
Going live, setting up your meeting to Facebook Live. And we are live, and you are back here for another episode of Knockouts and Three Counts. What up, though? How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys haven't been snowed in yet by this great, beautiful Michigan fucking weather. Corey's back once again to do this damn thing with me, and we are joined tonight by, as you can read in the caption, we're joined by Donnie, the real deal Ballou, ahead of his fight for Hard Rock MMA at Hard Rock MMA 117. How you doing, brother, man?
I'm doing good, man. Towards the end of my weight cut. So, weigh-ins are tomorrow. Get to eat tomorrow. Hard part's almost done, man.
It must be going good if we got you the day before weigh-ins, man. It must be going good.
Day before weigh-ins, and I have a smile on my face. It's been
That's
a good
what
man.
That's what I'm saying.
No injuries. Like I said, weight cut's been pretty smooth so far, right? We got 1 day left, so I'll take 1 day of suffering over a week of suffering any day. So not too bad.
If you don't mind me asking, how much more you still got to cut?
See, I'm at like 135 right now. I can get down to 26.9. So when I wake up, I'll probably be somewhere in like the 33 range. I've already had all my food, already had all my water for the day. So I'll have like probably 7 pounds to be safe tomorrow. A couple bad sessions though to be out of the way. No problem.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a significantly taller guy for the division.
Yeah.
I know I'm a tall, lengthy, skinny guy myself, man. But that cut down, man, that down to 25, that must be real, man.
Yeah, and then, now that I'm getting a little older, right? I turned 30 this year. I'm at the age now where like my metabolism's slowing down. Like I'm walking around a little bit heavier than what I'm used to, and the weight's not coming off as easy, right? So I'm having to tweak some of my diet a little bit. Fish seems to really work for me, so we moved to fish. It's a little more leaner. It seems to work really, really well. I'm sitting down in that low to mid 130 range. And it like I said, you just got to tweak a couple things, but we'll get it down. It's a couple more cuts, get it down to a science. This one's been pretty good though, so no complaints.
I've noticed that. I'm coming up on that 30 mark myself, man. That metabolism ain't quite what it used to be. I ain't complaining though. I always walked around a little too skinny. I'm finally 6'3", finally walk around at 200. I'm not complaining,
Yeah,
but
well, they always say that it would catch up to me, So I really do have to start watching my junk food and stuff now.
Well, that's one thing I was gonna ask you actually is as you, like you say, getting older, is any anticipation of moving up to bantamweight, or are you kind of good with where you're at?
No, I think I'm good where I'm at, man. I still don't walk around heavy enough, to really fight at a true 135. I think I have the strength to do it. I think, but more of those guys, it's you get drugged into the 5th round by somebody who's probably 155, 160 versus me naturally. You know what I mean? It'll wear on you. But I think I just like being the bigger fighter at 125. I like being the taller, longer arms,
All right. So here's the part of the show where we break into story time. So see, I got a love-hate relationship with you some bitches at 125 and 130 first. Because when I boxed, and Corey can attest to this because he was actually at some of these fights, I was dropping all the way to fight at 120. I fought at 120 in boxing. I fought at 125 in boxing. And then the last boxing fight that I took, I was supposed to fight a guy. I cut to make 125. The guy I was supposed to fight didn't show up. So I fought a guy who was 6 foot tall, about 6 foot tall, 145 pounds. And I was at the time 5'3", 125. Dude. Y'all motherfuckers that are big, skinny, and lanky, you know, at these smaller weight classes are a problem. And the worst part of it is, I have no problem in admitting it. You know what? With hindsight being what it is, Corey can attest to it too. That guy, for being that much bigger than me, should have hit way harder, because I hit him twice in the first round and that guy flew. And it took him until the last 30 seconds of the fourth round, which was the last round, to be able to finish it. And he only knocked me out because he caught it right where my jaw connected. He hit me with one shot where I went down and got right back up. And I'm like, fuck. No, wait a minute. Like, I was so mad. So, like I said, I can completely relate. Well, let's not, I mean, since we're on the subject, man, you know, you got to fight, you know, last year, you know, you fought a guy in Nate Williams who is, you know, a veteran of the game. He's got how many fights? Like 40, 50 fights, something like that?
He's got like 50 fights now. So I think he was ranked number 7 in the country at 125 when I fought him.
And yeah, and this guy had like 50 fights, Corey. So he went in and fought this fight, is absolutely dominating this dude, and then gets caught in a dick down armbar. The guy goes out the back door, catches the armbar, and it's end of story. So tell me a little bit about that fight. Did that do anything to like mess with your psyche? Did it do anything with your mental preparation? Is it something where you think you just made a mistake? Like, what are your thoughts now that you're removed from that fight?
You know, I felt when going into that fight, I really felt like that was my chance, right? I really felt like if I win that fight, like I was gonna get a call up to a bigger show. Not, you know, it didn't have to be UFC, but you know, I would get a bigger call to LFA, Bellator, something along those lines. You know, you take out a number 7 prospect in the country, you know, that speaks for itself, right? It did mess with my mind a little bit. You know, going into that fight, nothing surprised me, right? I knew I was going to have the length. I knew I was going to have the reach. You know, some people say you should have stood up, you know, but what do you do when you're dominating a fight like that, right? The one thing I did learn from that fight is that when you have 50 fights, you know how to take a beating. You know how to weather the storm and wait for your opportunity. The only thing that I would say that took me off guard was, you know, him being 5 foot or 5'1". Things that I was doing, like even on the ground, like normal stuff, like where there'd be more space, there was zero space. So when he got that arm bar, and I guess you said I was dick down, I like rolled my arm and like there was no space. Like everything was just a little bit different because he was so much shorter.
Did you actually tap, or was it one of those where it popped and you kind of screamed, sort of?
I think it was a verbal tap. It was verbal. I was trying to like hold my arm in place still. Because like when I flipped over.
So did you actually break it, or did it just pop the bursa sac?
No, it was just the tendon along the side of the elbow. It just popped it a little bit. It was sore for a while. I think my bicep was more sore than anything.
Yeah, because it's all extended like that.
Yeah.
Dude,
it was a scary little pop.
You and I got so much in common, dude, because I had one of those in the Toledo Open of all places.
Especially like you were saying with the shorter guy, the leverage point's just completely different. So the whole angle and everything on the arm, I mean, yeah, that's the type of stuff you deal with. I learned a lot from it, man. Like I said, I really felt like it was a make or break fight for me.
Mm-hmm. So it was a heartbreaker. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably one of the most devastating losses I've ever had. You know, I went back. It took me a while to watch the film. I got with my coaches, and you know, we talked about some of the mental part of the game, man. Just, you know, since then I've hooked up with Mind Lock. You know, they're more of like a, you know, sports psychologist, right? So my management team hooked me up with them, you know. Shout out to Liam over there at Cage Side Management, man.
He's watching this as we speak.
Yes, sir. They've done a good job of getting me ready, man, getting my mind right.
Well, you see that in a lot of the guys that are either transitioning to the top in the UFC or, you know, likewise promotions, or people that maybe were at that point and, like you said, suffered a loss that they see as like career defining or something like that. But you get in there and you realize that in the bigger picture, it's you win or you learn, you know. And you know, a lot of these, a lot of these promotions, it's what you've done for me lately. And as long as you're in there staying busy and showing progression in your skills, and especially being dominant, like you guys were saying in the early rounds, you can see the progression. You know what I mean? So it's nothing really to hang your hat on. It's really not.
But the mental part, if you can get a mental edge on everybody, everybody going into a fight, no matter who you are, you think about those things. Like you think about losing and winning and what if he beats me? But if you can master your own mind when it comes to fighting, like you're going to have a step above everybody else. That's taking your game to the next level. That's what it's all about right there. That's how you become one of the greatest right there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do they say? It's 10% physical, 90% mental. So
yeah, man. MMA is all mental.
90% mental, 10% skill. Come on, man. You're messing up the Fort Mind. What the fuck?
Hey, my lines might not be the best, but one point I do want to bring up, because you kind of brought it up in going into this weekend, we got the UFC event. One of my favorite fighters that I feel like is kind of not getting talked about as much, just because he is on a bit of a losing skid, is Michael Johnson. He's going in this weekend against Clay Guida, and he actually did essentially the same thing. I was watching his interviews just today, and he was talking about how he's going into these fights, he's winning, till the last second of the last round, and all of a sudden something happens. He loses train of thought, loses focus, gives up just one position, and that's the whole fight. And I wish I could word it better, but he's really doing the best that he can in order to focus more on those small moments in the fight. And is that what you're doing with your?
He's working on the small details, is what you're trying. Yeah.
So one of the biggest things we most recently talked about with Mindlock was self-talk, and that's, don't focus so much on blocking out the negative thoughts, because they're going to happen, right? It's just natural. And it's just how you process it, though. Like if you can turn that into something positive, you can take anything negative and turn it into something positive. Your mind's going to store it as positive energy. If you take it as negative and you keep thinking about it as negative, it's going to have a negative outcome. But self-talk is probably the most important thing when coming to those situations.
So that's something that I want to touch on too. Like that's something I feel like, as a fighter, that's something that I feel like goes so under talked about, right? Like, people, when they watch this stuff from at home, they see two people step into a cage, or they see two people step into a boxing ring, or they see two people step into whatever arena that we're talking. But what they don't realize is like all that goes into it, right? Like they don't realize all the training that you got to put in going into it. They don't realize like just the mental mind fuck that it is to go get in a cage or in a ring and be like, oh shit, I am willingly stepping into a ring or a cage with another grown man who's trying to take my fucking head off.
Yeah, unless you've ever stepped into a cage, like you'll never know what that feels like.
Right.
Like, yeah, you've had a fight on the street or in the bar, but you will never know what that feeling is, or what.
Sitting around knowing sitting around knowing we're just waiting until they call my name and then I got to go out there and fight some guy. Like it's
that you don't know.
Right. And right, dude. And then like I don't know,
agreed.
And here, this is a good question for you, to go along with this. I don't know about you, but at least for me, the best part is when it's your first fight, because everybody's like, bro, you got to kill him. And I'm like, bro, you don't understand. I'm just trying to keep my shit together before I go walk out there.
I've been there, man. I think we've all been there. You, especially when, you're standing there and, then your mind starts playing them games on you. Like, wait, this guy made weight. Like he's huge. Like, oh shit, he's tall. He's bigger than I thought. He was smaller yesterday. Like he put on 20 pounds.
Dude, and we were just literally talking about this yesterday. Literally, we were just talking about this when it comes to weight cuts, because people will be like, there's no way somebody can gain 20 pounds in a fight, in between weigh-ins and the fight. And I'm like,
well, you can.
I've seen some pretty bad ones. I mean, I know when my good buddy Miles Jury was, coming down to 145, I know that this dude to make 145, when I heard he was going to 145, I'm like, boy, that's a pretty big cut for you, sir. Like that's
Yeah, one of the biggest 135s I've ever seen is my coach, Scott Wegman. He used to fight at 135. I think he'd walk around at like 70, 71.
Dude, and it's
I mean,
insane
this
to
was
think that
absolutely
people are
lit.
cutting that much weight, and then you have to not only go cut that much weight, but you have to be able to go in there and perform, dude. That's insane.
Yep. Well, they got them new rules now where you know, it's like 10%. You can't gain back more than 10% of your weigh-in weight.
What?
Yeah, I think it's like
That's
a
so
Kentucky rule.
whack.
Ohio's not really strict on it. Kentucky is, you know, they'll slap you on the wrist, you know, your first defense, but I haven't seen them do it every time. It's hit or miss with them, but they'll reweigh you on next day.
All right, so that's a question too. You know, we know you're based out of Ohio, but we know this fight's going to go down in Kentucky. Obviously, Ohio's a little bit more open than things have been here in Michigan. What are things looking like for the MMA scene there in Ohio and Kentucky? Are they running a lot of fights already, or are they kind of just touch and go right now with all the COVID stuff? Or like, what's the overall vibe out there in the MMA scene in Ohio?
You know, I don't fight too much in Ohio, but I do fight in, you know, right across the river in Kentucky. I think they're doing more shows now. You know, we're all still pretty thankful that we're still allowed. Obviously, they limit the amount of contestants. I think when I fought back in November, it was like 200. They sold 200 tickets max. So at least they're allowing something, right? Puts a damper on ticket sales, especially when you can sell a bunch of tickets and make a little bit of money. But I'm thankful that they're still doing them, and it seems like they're picking up. You know what I mean? They're doing more and more. So hopefully, going into 2021 here, they ramp it up even more, and I can get 4 or 5 fights in this year.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. See, I like the fact that you know, you're coming off a big loss like that, and your first mind is not, oh shit, can I do this? It's let me get right back in the cage.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
we mentioned that you're from Ohio. So this is either going to make this interview go good or it's going to make this interview go bad. Are you a Buckeyes fan?
I'm not a major college football fan. I am a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan.
I can accept that. I said the Buckeyes.
No, I'm not. I don't follow it too much.
Good.
I don't know enough about them to say, hey, I love the Buckeyes, because it's not true.
I mean the Buckeyes. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say that? I just had to bust balls because you know we got to rock U of M this way. But that's a question in and of itself, man. So are you like, is fighting like all you're doing, or like what do you like to do when you're not training for a fight? Are you a guy who likes sports? Do you like to go out to the bar? Do you like to, you know, like, are you a gym rat? Like, what are you doing when you're not getting ready for a fight?
Man, if I'm not fighting and I'm not with, you know, or not with my kids, I'm fishing. Like literally, that's when it's warm outside, man. I'm out catfishing. That's what I do. Fighting, kids, fishing. That's it. That's all I do.
There ain't nothing wrong with that, dude. There's nothing like being by the water. During the summertime, man, I'm usually out on the deck every night because my mom's got off the side of the deck. We've got like a full blown koi fish pond with the waterfall and like 14 koi fish. I'll just be sitting out there, dude, and the sound of that water, I don't know, it does something to you.
Well, we just bought a house out in Indiana, so my wife and I will be pretty busy with you know, all of our new home projects and stuff like that. So I'm excited for that this summer. Fishing and some home projects. It's not too bad.
That's what's up, man.
What inspired the move out of state?
We were tired of our neighbors being on top of us, right? And then, you know, kind of where we were at over in Coleraine area, you know, kind of crime going through the roof. You know, we've had a couple of home break-in attempts at our home. You know, they'll go through the cars and stuff over in that area. So, you know, we got a little bit more land over here. So, you know, our neighbors aren't on top of us. It's a little more private. So we really enjoy it out here. Really quiet.
Okay.
It seems like the common theme as we all kind of get older and have kids and stuff. It's like, man, a little bit of space would be nice, man.
Yeah, I don't need to be over next to the bars anymore, you know.
Yeah, I would rather drive an extra 5-10 minutes than you know.
You talk about crazy neighbors. Corey, do you remember the guy that used to live next door to me?
Man, you had all kinds of crazy neighbors.
I'm talking about the guy who moved from the country and tried to negotiate pool hours and hopped up on the side of the fence and broke my skateboard. And Dude, we had this guy come move in over by us, man. Shit you not. Comes out, he goes, well, we're from the country, like the closest neighbor was like a mile away. This motherfucker, mind you, we're in like freshmen in high school, like middle school freshmen in high school. This guy's talking about, can you guys be out of the pool by like 8:00 in the middle of the summer? And I'm like, the fuck?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and my mom heard it and's all like, what the fuck? Like, I can't lie, we were some assholes as kids, man. I remember, I'll never forget this guy. We tossed snowballs over the fence, right? Because I could see him through the privacy fence. I played baseball, and so did my buddies that were with us. So we pelted this guy, and he started throwing them back. Next thing you know, guy's calling the cops talking about we smoked his daughter. I'm like, wait a minute, there's nobody in his hands. I can see through the fence. So the cops showed up trying to give us a ticket and all that good deal, and had to have moms pull up around the corner, hop out the back fence, run around the corner, and left the TV on. Cop never knew the difference.
Sounds like you deserved a couple more snowballs.
I know. You evil kids with your snowballs.
A little snow never hurt nobody. Well, let's talk about something else that could hurt somebody. We talked about the fights. How much do you watch UFC and like bare knuckle FC and all the other stuff around? Are you a guy who watches the fights pretty regularly? Do you keep up with
I don't keep up with it like every show. You know, when they had like the big events and stuff, I'll watch them. I'm more of like an old school UFC fan. I like, my favorite fighter of all time is Randy Couture. I mean, that's who I like. The Randy Couture's, the GSPs.
Can't go wrong with
guys,
the natural,
man.
bro.
Yeah, I'm a big Khabib fan too, man. I really like him.
Yeah.
That's a tough dude, man.
Okay, so here's the
honestly,
question: how do you
been-
think old Paige VanZandt's gonna fare this weekend?
I don't know, man. We'll
Did
see.
you guys see the weigh-in? And old girl was like not having it. Like,
Yeah.
stepping into my ring, bitch. Dude, that kind of had me dying because like
I
these
think
two
they were
are
just
in like
playing
full
that
on
up a
like.
little bit to try to generate some views myself, but
Look, dude.
Personally though, have you been following everything that or not necessarily everything, but some of the stuff that Khabib's been doing since, post retirement, I guess you could say?
Not really.
No,
I just see the chatter about whether he's going to come back and who the opponent is, and he doesn't think anyone's worthy and all that good stuff. So I seen something earlier. I don't know how true it was, but a GSP was training pretty hard, and people are speculating that.
I think if he comes back, it's only going to be for GSP.
Yeah, I hope GSP doesn't, because I don't want him to go ruining his legacy. I don't think he can beat Khabib as much as I love him. I think he's a little bit past that prime to where Khabib, like I said, Khabib's is on a different level, man. That dude is.
I agree, but he came back and beat up Bisping like that, though.
Yeah, but what would happen against Bisping and Khabib? I think Khabib would whoop Bisping's ass, size difference or not. So
I'm not arguing that at all. I think Khabib. I think Khabib does not really have an equal when it comes to.
If we could somehow do like video game style matchup where we could do GSP in his prime, that would be an amazing matchup. But I completely agree with you with the age difference now and the fact that even though GSP has been active training wise and in the gym the whole time, it's completely different compared to being active in the octagon and actually preparing for a fight. So when
GSP was in his prime, like he was like wrestling with like the Canadian team and stuff like that. Like his wrestling was like solid,
Well,
yeah,
so he was wrestling with the Olympic team, and the funny thing is he had a wrestling background, but that was what was so insane with how good his boxing was once he got with Freddie Roach.
Yep. Yep.
So with that being said, we've all said that we think that there could be, this could be a publicity stunt. How do we think this fight's going down this weekend? Do you think Paige VanZandt's going to go in and get this dub, or do you think it's going to be a catastrophic fuck up?
I think she gets it done. I think she'll get it. I don't think it'll be like domination, but I think it's going to be ugly. I think she gets it done. It's for sure going to be ugly.
She ain't going to look like she does going into the fight. She'll be looking a little different on TikTok, that's for sure. All right, Corey, so what's going to happen?
So when the fight was first announced, I kind of speculated on here that basically this was BKFC's version of giving her a, hey, welcome to the promotion. Here's a girl that's, I think she's 3-3 or 2-3 in the promotion. So yeah, she's got bare knuckle experience, but it's not necessarily in the best of light. She has improved in her skills over the last couple fights. I do give her that 110%. But that being said, she's going in there against somebody who is UFC quality.
But she also
say what you want about Paige VanZandt, but she does have many wins, and she goes in there and really shows her grit when she needs to in fights. So I definitely think it goes her way in the fight for sure.
All right, so we've got 2 for Paige VanZandt. For me, I think Paige is going to get the win. I think this opponent, no disrespect to her opponent, but I do feel a lot like what you said. I kind of feel like this is an opponent where they wanted to put her in there with somebody who was decent, that would be a fight, but somebody that she could still beat. Because obviously, as those of you who have been watching us for a long time know, we cover pro wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they're trying to give her a gimme or anything like that, but I mean, boy, could you imagine how catastrophic that'll be if she goes in there and gets knocked the fuck out after they done put her on the Bare Knuckle podcast and all this other shit, like off her first fight, and then goes in there and loses? You ain't gonna get to go back to the UFC.
No.
Well, it depends on in what fashion. If she goes out there and it does become a drag out, bang out war, and it's stopped because of a fight or a cut over an eyebrow or something like that, blood leaking into the eye, that kind of could change it. If she ends up getting put down, face down on the mat, that'll be a totally different story.
Yeah, like I said, it's gonna be ugly, and I think it'll get messy. But like you said, I think it's a fight that she should win. But I don't think
I agree.
But she can't get caught. We've all seen it. You get into that third round, right? You're exchanging. It only takes one hit. That's what makes this shit so crazy, man.
Especially bare knuckle. I mean, don't get me wrong, 4-ounce gloves aren't shit, but the ability for bone on bone.
I'm gonna just say this here. Like, I've said this, I don't know how many times on the show, but dude, as someone that's been trained to throw my hands, as Mr. Ballou probably can attest to, like, everybody thinks you're so fucking tough. All right. But let you go in there and let's scrap with somebody who not only knows how to fight and how to throw a punch, but there ain't nothing to protect your face.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing to protect your face.
Nothing.
There ain't no headgear. There ain't no, I mean, you got a mouthpiece, but I mean, it takes a whole lot less for you to go down in a bare knuckle fight than it does in an MMA fight.
From watching as many bare knuckle fights as I have up to this point, which is essentially most of what the promotion's done, it's really based a lot on head movement. You don't do a lot blocking your
A good
arms.
boxer does good in bare knuckle.
Yeah, it's a lot about head movement, man.
Just ask Josh Burns. He put old boy to sleep. Check out the link for that interview in the top right corner.
Arm blocking and just hoping that you're going to maybe lean away from it. You got to have full on head movement. You got to keep it moving. That's really the thing in bare knuckle.
They always say MMA fighters are crazy. You got to be a different kind of crazy to do some bare knuckle boxing, man.
Is that something you would ever consider?
No, I'm good on that.
He said, no. You don't want to be like Charles Bennett? Come on, man.
No, man.
Charles Felony, Crazy Horse. You don't know what his nickname is today, Bennett?
Yeah, that dude's he's fit for bare knuckle boxing.
That guy don't give a shit, dude.
There's some guys that are cut right from that cloth,
All right, well, let's get back to the matter at hand. We've had a bunch of people join in the stream. If you guys are watching it, make sure you hit that like button, hit that share button. Make sure you spread the word for the man Donnie Ballou so that we can get more people watching that fight going down this Saturday at HR MMA. All right, let's get back a little bit to your fight. Obviously, as we mentioned last night, or your last time out, wasn't, the performance that you wanted, but now you're getting an opportunity here to come and bounce back at HR MMA 117. So you're stepping in against a 2-1 guy in Nikolai Giamatti, I think his name is. You're stepping in against Nikolai Giamatti. How do you feel about this fight? What are you looking to showcase? What are you looking to show in this fight? Are you trying to just show an overall game and show everybody that it was just a slip? Or are you coming in here to make a big statement in this fight?
It's more about making a statement, right? Like I don't think it. I want people to know, right? Like I'm still the man at 125. Like, don't get it wrong, right? You know, Gianti, he's 2-1. But he was undefeated as an amateur. I think he was like 5-0 as an amateur. He's around the same age as me. He's a little bit shorter. He's a tough kid. He's a ground guy. To be completely honest with you, I'm coming in looking to make it a real dirty fight. Like I want it to be a drug out, nasty, dirty fight. Like that's what I want. I want to stuff his shots. I want to force him to fight me. I want to exchange. That's what I want to do.
So that's what I like to hear, and here's why. Because, like I said, I was watching your fight, your last fight with Nate Williams before we went on here, as well as a couple other your fights that they had over there on YouTube. You know, it was funny to me when I was watching that fight because the guys on commentary are over here talking about Donnie Ballou needs to just stand him up and use his stand up, but yet in the very next sentence, the guy's like, he's been a wrestler since he was 6 years old. I'm like, okay, so if he got him in mount, then why would a wrestler since he was 6 want to stand up?
My thing is like, why would you stand up after you're just like dropping elbows on a guy's head? You know what I mean?
Every time they would say you need to stand it up, you'd throw another elbow or another body shot or those shots that you had when you were on his back. And I'm like, what is like, are these motherfuckers watching the same fight as you are? Now, okay, this is a good question for you. You know, we've posed this question to a lot of fighters, you know, with you still fighting on a regional level. What are some changes that you think we could see in MMA judging that would alleviate some of the issue of some of the bad judging that we see in these fights so often? Obviously, in that fight, you got caught by an armbar, but
just like any job, you should have some kind of requirement, right? Like you should have some kind of like, you know, whether it's like officiating or some kind of like fighting experience, in my opinion. Like, how are you letting people judge fights that never even been in the fight? Like they've never experienced a bad
or at least trained. Like I understand some people might not have fought, but at least have like some like there should be like a set like you got to have like 5 years of training experience or
right.
whatever they deem to be fair. But there should be like some kind of like you have to have some kind of prerequisite to where you've trained or something. Because I go ahead.
I can agree with that like training should be a huge aspect of it, but unfortunately there is some people out there with physical ailments where they wouldn't actually be able to go in and actually do the training or
sure, but at least let there be some testing.
But are extremely educated in the fight game itself. I think the best bout route, honestly, in my opinion, would be something kind of like what we're seeing with Kansas, where we see an open scoring so that we can at least know if somebody's getting fucked, essentially. I mean, it sucks, but unfortunately, unless they're going to up the amount of judges, I think that's kind of where we're going to end up still being with 3 guys or 3 gals, whatever the case be. You can definitely see where scores can get kind of misinterpreted, especially with the nature of MMA. Some of the rounds are so close that if one punch lands a little bit more significant at a different angle in front of a different judge, they're going to score it different than the guy that's on the other side of the octagon. But that being said, I think they need to do some type of performance audit at the end of the year. I think they need to do like, hey, we looked over all of your fights. It turns out that MMA media and the other 2 people that were there with you on the night scored this particular round a 10-8, and you gave the other guy the round. Why? And if you can't explain stuff like that, or if you don't have a reasonable explanation to what twisted that round into your opinion for that person, then yeah, I think it's time to essentially find a new person for that position. Just like any other job, like you were saying.
I really like the audit thing about it though. Like you can put them through a more extensive training on this, right? Like, and like maybe like in this training, like have them watch fights and judge them, and then you audit them, and then you critique them on.
That's what I was going to say. What if you come up with like some form of like, I don't know, I guess if it would be a test or something, but what if you know, like what if you did a thing to where like you had like, say you had a group of 10 people that want to be a judge, have them watch the same 5 fights, but let them be fights where they're like super close. Like, okay, just because it's one that comes off the top of my head, have them watch. Oh my God. Okay, and that leads to another great question too. Since everybody's talking about all the controversy with Stephen A. Smith, have them watch the fight with Zhang Weili and Jan Jacek. See how they judge it. See what they say are the significant moments in the fight, because it shouldn't take a brain surgeon to figure those things out. And if they don't answer it how they should answer it, I think in a lot of ways that kind of tells what you need to know.
Unfortunately, with fights that are that close, though, I feel like those wouldn't be the determining factors, right? Because yet again, that's where it's like, I feel like it's more of an increase the volume of people that are actually scoring the fight would help with that. But like in that particular fight, I mean, are you going to score Wei Li with her power punches, or are you going to? Because Joanna actually outstruck her, landed more strikes in multiple rounds. So if you want to go just by strike totals, she won. There was no knockdown.
Sure, I get that.
Mistaken.
I'm just
so
saying,
like,
I think in order for something like that to work, it would have to be a fight where it's like razor close.
yeah, and that's
Like
where
it has to be a fight where they
open,
actually have to pay attention and make a legitimately like intelligent, informed decision. Like, this is why I think so and so won. Like I think that's the only way that you can really make that work. Donnie, we talked about a little earlier in the show, our show also covers pro wrestling. So as we mentioned, if you guys are checking us out and hit that subscribe button, you would know that we just did an interview with WWE Hall of Famer this past Tuesday. In the other half of Harlem Heat, Mr. Stevie Ray, the partner of Booker T. My question for you is, does Donnie Real Deal Ballou get down with the pro wrestling at all? Does he watch? Do you watch it anymore? Were you ever a fan of it? If so, who were you a fan of?
When I was a kid, back when it was like the WWE, I was real big on it when I was a kid. I went to a couple of the shows. My dad took me to a couple of the shows when I was little. I think they were like US Bank Arena, stuff like that. But I'm a little out of the game now. I'm not so hip to it anymore.
Yeah.
So here's my question. What are your thoughts on, I'll ask you the question in both ways. What are your thoughts on all these guys that are going over from either Ronda Rousey, who's going from UFC to wrestling, or vice versa, all the wrestlers that we've seen make the crossover and step in the cage? What are your thoughts on that?
I could see it from both sides. Like, obviously, as like an MMA person, like you have people that are coming like straight from WWE to you just getting your legitimate shot at the UFC. I think it's a little disrespectful, honestly, to the people who are out there who've grinded their way through the amateur rankings, who've grinded through the pro rankings, still waiting on their shot and maybe to deserve a shot. And I'm sure, I don't know much about the pro wrestling world, but I'm sure it could be seen a lot of the same way, right? There's pro wrestlers out there, people who are, at these small regional shows wanting their shot, and all of a sudden you get these former UFC stars coming over to do some wrestling, right? I think it's a little disrespectful on both sides, to be completely honest with you. Like the Brock Lesnar thing, I get it. He was a pro, he was a great wrestler, right? Phenomenal wrestler. But then you guys have people that come from like NFL, right? Like Greg Hardy, like people like that, like coming from football almost straight to freaking UFC. But I think it's a little disrespectful.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think for me, it comes down to like what your background is, right? Like a Greg Hardy doesn't make me as mad because Greg Hardy has the athletic background. Or like you mentioned, Brock Lesnar doesn't make me mad because anyone that actually does 5 seconds of looking knows that the guy actually was a legitimately like a beast wrestler before he did that. I think that's for me, that's what kind of like does it. Because, okay, here's a perfect example. As a guy who's a wrestling guy and an MMA guy, when Batista went and fought an MMA dog, it didn't look good. He won the fight. He's got a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He won the fight, but it didn't look good, dog. Like he took a lot more damage, I think, than they ever expected that dude was about to take. So I just wanted to hear what your thoughts are on that, because we've seen so much of the crossover. Well, before we get your last thoughts on your fight this weekend, We also have another fight that's going down this weekend. We talked about the UFC in brief, but we've got another one of our past guests to the show, which you can check out there in the top right corner. Justin James has stepped up on short notice to be stepping up on UFC Fight Night this weekend, and it's going to be headlined by the co-main event of Corey Sandhagen and Frankie Edgar, and then you've got Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov. So who are you going with in those fights? The Frankie Edgar one's the one I'm looking more forward to. Okay.
For sure. And I like Frankie Edgar, and I fight for sure. He's just one of them real ones, man. He's just a dirty guy. Yeah. Like I said, he's just gritty. That's kind of how I want to show my fight coming up this weekend. I just want to show my grit, man. I just want to make it nasty, like Frankie Edgar style. Just make it dirty.
I so wish with every bone in my body that was the main event, or that we could just get 2 5-round main and co-main essentially, because that fight is, in my eyes, realistically, like I said, should be the main event. And not only that, both of these guys are just so impressive, man. The Sandman, Corey Sandhagen, not only do we share a first name, man, but his fighting spirit out there, dude. He's out there fucking, the way that he brings it in fights, man. It's such an interesting matchup because, like you say, Frankie Edgar is like the most proven talent in the UFC. Like, he is, you're going to get Frankie Edgar every single time he goes out there. It's that same Frankie Edgar. And he even looks slightly better, in my opinion, now that he keeps moving down weight classes. So it's even more impressive. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's, like I said, we share the first name, so I just root for the guy super hard. But, dude, he's so impressive, man. Corey Sandhagen's looked really good. The only person that he's lost to in any type of fashion, really, was Aljamain Sterling, who's, in my eyes, going to be the next champ. So
I agree with everything you said, but I'll pose this question to both of you guys. You know, this is something I was listening to. You know, for all of you guys that listen to this, a lot of the, I do a lot of research on this stuff too. So I like to listen to guys like Jimmy Smith on Unlocking the Cage, or on the wrestling end, I listen to Busted Open on Sirius XM every morning, to hear, their thoughts on what's going on in wrestling. So something that was brought up on Jimmy Smith's show that was very interesting, and I'll pose the question to both of you guys since we're talking about Frankie Edgar. Do you think if Frankie Edgar loses this fight that he needs to retire, or Dana's going to try to make him retire? Because if he loses this fight, yes, it's a huge fight on the totem pole, but if he loses, realistically, the road that he's going to have to go through to get back to the top of 135, because they went down the list of 1 through 11. And, dude,
killers.
When Dominic Cruz is your number 11,
killers. They're all killers.
Like, that's a hell of a road back to a title. So my question for both of you guys, do you think if Frankie loses this one, and that same question goes for, he posed the same question when we're talking about Alexander Overeem. So do you think on both situations, if these guys lose this weekend, do you think that we could see them maybe getting their future endeavors from the UFC?
I could see Frankie Edgar. I could see him being, I don't think he'd be done. I could see Dana pushing him out, and I could see Frankie going somewhere else for sure. I don't think that he would up and retire. I just don't think it's in him yet. He's one of them guys where the fire just burns into him until he's 50, right? Overeem, I could see him retiring, to be completely honest with you. I think it's kind of do or die for him, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree with your assessment there, essentially. You've kind of seen Dana do everything but say that he can't wait for Alistair Overeem to retire because he pays him too damn much, in his opinion.
Yep.
He makes a ton for fights, and yet again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying. I think that's why he's the main event over the Frankie Edgar, Corey Sandhagen fight. That being said, though, if he loses, I could definitely see a retirement, just because he's kind of made it noted that he's making one big push to try to get to the title. He's on like a 3-fight win streak, and if something slips up, that's kind of the end of it.
Yep.
Now, as for Frankie Edgar, though, I think Dana's got too much respect for the man, and I think it's well-earned, deserved respect.
I was going to say he's earned that warrior card, but yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just the weight class he's in right now is what makes that so tough for me. Because if he loses again, man, Dude, that's like we said, that's a row of fucking killers to have to walk through to get back to a title.
I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head that he made his debut against in the division. But he looked really impressive in his last fight. I can't think of who did he fight when he moved down to 135? Anybody remember?
Not off the top of my head. If you guys are watching in the comments and remember who it was that Frankie Edgar faced at his 35 debut, you can definitely throw it out there and we'll come back to it.
Either way, he looked incredibly impressive, man. And I'm like I said, I think he has more of a respect in Dana's eyes. And even if he does lose this fight, yeah, he might be out of title contention. But he's Frankie Edgar, and you can put him up in there against anybody. He's going to put on a fight of the night contender every single time. There's no give, there's no quit, there's no nothing like that. He's going to go out there and try to win and do it in typical Frankie Edgar fashion. So no, I don't think his career is in jeopardy at all, honestly. It's up to him when he retires. Unless he goes on some crazy skid or something like that out of the UFC, I think he's one of the guys that has earned his place to retire in the UFC.
Well, I mean, he's lost 3 out of the last 5, though.
Yeah, but look at who they gave him.
I know. You can never say Frankie didn't fight a dog. I'm just trying to throw out counterpoints here.
He fought Aldo for the belt. Like all those losses are title fights. So yeah.
So if he loses, make him fight one of those killers at the bottom. See what happens. See how he responds.
All right, we got some comments in the live feed. Scott Wegman, Frankie Edgar is one of my favorite fighters, so he wants to see Frankie keep going.
Yeah, me too. And he's such a workhorse too, man. His ability, even as he's gotten older, to not only go in there and continue to do what he does, but show grains of improvement throughout it too. And other than fights where he just goes in like Korean Zombie, where it just didn't work out for him on the night, he normally goes in there and just really does show like essentially the same Frankie Edgar, but it's not the same Frankie. It's like he's playing an RPG and he keeps like 1 or 2 leveling up in between fights, and he comes in and he's just a little bit incrementally better at everything. But when you're talking about somebody that's as skilled as he already is to begin with, a little incremental adjustment's a huge thing against somebody. So I couldn't be more impressed. I really couldn't, especially as the age starts to catch up to him.
I agree with it. I just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are. Well, as I said, we want to get back to your fight before we cap this one off. But before we do that, in our episode on Tuesday, where we interviewed WWE Hall of Famer, one half of Harlem Heat, the great Stevie Ray, we talked about their iconic theme song, which anyone who knows Booker T knows. You hear that theme song, you know who the fuck it is. It was the same in WCW when they were together as Harlem Heat. So for Donnie Ballou, I was checking out some of your fights, beforehand. I noticed that you come out to some Metallica. Is it always Metallica or does it switch up?
I switch it up. Sometimes I'll let some of my fans pick it, man. It just depends. Usually for me, if I'm picking it, it's usually somewhere along the lines of like MGK or Eminem, something like that. It's going to hype me up. But every now and then I like to do some kind of like ticket giveaway or something, or I'll let somebody like choose my walkout song, something like that.
I like it. Fan interaction.
People involved with it.
Yeah, that's like Kyle alluded to. That's a really good way to get fan interaction and kind of, like you were saying earlier, boost up, ticket sales when the world's back to normal. It's a good way to, drive a couple ticket sales for sure.
Yep. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you haven't gotten to do so yet, okay, so a couple people are commenting in the comments. We've got Tyson Triplet in the comments. We're going to get to your question in one second. To cap the thought off on the music, I highly recommend, if you haven't done so, when COVID gets the fuck out of here, whenever that is, you need to go see Metallica live in concert. Okay. My dad died a year ago. Matter of fact, my dad died a year ago on Saturday next week. That was the one concert I was always mad I never got to take my dad to. I tried to take him when I went, and dude, for them being that old, like when I say these fuckers went for like 4 hours straight, like they cut Avenged Sevenfold and Volbeat before that because it was supposed to storm. Like it looked like it was gonna pour, and it started to, but it never like fully let loose. And then Metallica went up there, dude. When I say these sumbitches went 4 hours, these old bastards must have had like been hopped up on energy drinks or something. Because for them being that old, dude, they still kicked ass. So if any of you guys in the comments haven't ever gotten to do so, you got to check out Metallica. But since we're getting towards the end of the interview here, let me get back to these fan questions that we got here in the comments. Like I said, Tyson Triplet asks, maybe I'm late, but Donnie, what's your game plan for this fight?
We'll make it dirty, man. Game plan is, I really want to come out and show people like I'm not just that one round fighter, right? Like I have to finish. I want to make this dirty. Like I want to drag it out. I want a bloody fight. Like that's what I want. I want to come out and show that I'm not a one-dimensional. I'm not just a wrestler, right? Everybody knows me for my wrestling. I'm going to come out. I'm going to stuff his shot. And I'm going to make him fight me.
I mean, sounds like a pretty sound game plan to me. Corey, do you got anything else for Mr. Ballou before we let him get out of here?
One thing we forgot to get to. You got any sponsors or anything you want to get?
I was going to get to that. But...
we talked about Mindlock a little bit. Really thankful for Cage Side Management taking care of me, hooking me up with Mindlock. They've done great. Big thanks to Scott Wegman and everybody at Drive MMA helping me prepare, helping me with my weight cut.
I mean, that pretty much ties a bow to it, man. Is there any way for anybody who can't be there live at the fight? Is there any way we can check it out? Is there any way we can check it out live somewhere on pay-per-view or anything? Is it on Fight TV?
So there's a personal link that's set up for me. It's through B2 Digital. I've posted it on my Facebook a little bit. I'll also share it on my fighter page. But I'll post it again tomorrow, and I'll post it again Saturday. Anybody who wants to watch, you can tune in. Like I said, use that link. It's tied to me. I get credit for some ticket sales since I can't really sell too many tickets. So it'll be good.
Well, I'll make sure that I put the link to the tickets for you in both the Facebook caption and when we post this on YouTube. For anybody that misses this, you will be able to go back and check it out on our YouTube channel. And before we get out of here, since we're plugging things, make sure if you're in the Texas area, Pele Pro Wrestling, we're headed there, coming down there next Friday. It's going to be live on Fight TV. You got Psycho Clown from AAA coming down. You've got Mike Bennett, recently released from WWE and with Ring of Honor, is going to be on that card. You got Mecha Wolf from Mexico coming down. You've got Gino Medina from MLW coming down. And you've got our homie, and hopefully next week's guest, the 7 Mile Destroyer himself, Isaiah Broner, will be coming and doing his thing against Gino Medina from MLW. So we've got a lot in store from there. And hell, rumor has it that I might be trying my hand at some golf. So if you want to see us make a dumbass of ourselves, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, make sure you check out the vlog from the last trip to Texas, where I learned how to throw some axes and became your one-on-one knockouts and 3 counts axe throwing champion in this bitch. Like I said, make sure you're checking it out live this Tuesday. And if you're able to, make sure you check out that live on Fight TV pay-per-view on Fight TV. And this Saturday, make sure you check out the man in the screen right here, Donnie, the real deal Ballou, if I can spit it out. I was good the whole time and fucked it up at the end. But check this man out live this Saturday for HR MMA. He's going to get back in that win column. You don't want to miss this. Corey, anything else?
Having me on, man. It was a pleasure.
Hey, man, we appreciate the time, and we're glad you enjoyed it. And thank you to all your fans that were in the comments and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
That's what I was just about to close on. Is I appreciate you giving us the time, man. Like we said in the opening, it seems like the weight cut's going well. I hope everything goes well leading into the actual scale time tomorrow. And other than that, man, best of luck in the fight.
I appreciate it, guys. I look forward to being on with you in the future.
Hey, man, like I said, you've got a spot, man. You know how we rock this way, man. We're in your corner. But like I said, all of you guys who are checking us out, make sure you hit that like button so you see us here live every Tuesday at 9. And you never know when we could be going live with more interviews like this. So if you hit that like button, you won't miss any of it. So until next time, and in the in-between time, Fuck your
See you
couch.
guys. Peace.